Hello, everyone. Books with Banks back again, and I am so grateful to be joined today by Alan from the Library of Allenxandria. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. I just, this is the first that people have wondered, like, if you have me locked in your basement. It's the first time I've appeared in public in, like, I don't know, like, someone go look at my channel. When's the last time I posted an update? I'm slow. I am slow. I'm too tired. I teach school and I don't post videos, and this is irrelevant to what this discussion's about. But let's talk about
No,
Malazan. Let's do it.
all
Let's
right.
do
All
it.
right. I've been kind of tossing this idea around in my head for a little bit. I've seen Malazan, Book of the Fallen, or just the other Malazan books, compared to the From Software games, so like Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, this sort of thing. And I was wondering, or I was thinking about who would be a good fellow YouTuber to bring on to talk about both series, the video games and then these books. And just from listening to your chats with other booktubers, I knew you were familiar with, at least partially, with some of the games, some of the books in kind of both veins. So I thought, who better than Alan to have on for this discussion?
That's right. Philip, AP, Joanna, eat it. Y'all don't play video games, so this one's mine. I got snaked in there above the other Malazan people because of my love of video games. So boom, that's me dabbing on them.
All right.
But yes, I love From Software games, and I also love Malazan. That's true.
All right. I was thinking that we might be able to, um, or I guess I was wondering before we get into really the common points of comparison between those games and those books, I was wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing first how you got into the Malazan book series, and kind of like when you got into them, and then also when you got into playing the From Software games, because like I think Demon Souls was their first real like Souls type of game that came out in 2009. So Ericsson was almost done publishing Book of the Fallen at that point. So I'm sure there was probably some kind of time gap there.
For sure. So I always forget when I read Gardens of the Moon, but like I know that I was studying Japan in 2008 when I read Dead House Gates. Like I know I was there because Japan has these like it's like a shower tub thing. So it's like the size of a shower, but like the sides come up and there's like a seat in it. So you can sit in it like a tub. And I remember distinctly sitting in that reading Dead House Gates, like when I was in college. So I know I read Dead House Gates in 2008. So I must have read Gardens of the Moon either right before that or yeah. So it must have been 2008. Yeah. And then I periodically went off and on of the series. Just I would like get distracted and do something else. And then I just finished the series 2 years ago. I finally read the whole thing 2 years ago, 3 years ago, however long it was. It was recent. And as far as like the From Software games, I remember because I worked at GameStop at some point. This is probably after I worked at GameStop, but I've always played a lot of video games, and I always had Game Informer. And so I remember the big deal when Dark Souls came out. Not so much Demon Souls. When Dark Souls came out for like the PS3, I remember the big deal everybody's making about it. And I think I got it. And I think I played the first, literally, there's a skeleton as you're running up the stairs at the very beginning of the first Dark Souls. And he knocked me off of it. And I think I quit. Like I said, this game's too hard. I'm not going to play this game. So I never played it again. I took it back or returned it, whatever. And it must have been at some point, PS Plus offered Bloodborne. I'm gonna say Bloodborne, just I know it's Bloodborne. Offered Bloodborne for free, and I downloaded it, and I had it on my PlayStation for forever. And this must have been, I'm trying to think of when it was. I should have looked at my stupid trophies. But I play my friend, my best friend Finn, who we play video games together. He said, "Hey, I heard about this game. We should play it." I'm like, "Okay, let's play it." And so we both played at the same time, and just helped each other on boss if we needed. And I got to the end, and the game was so freaking hard. I'm like, I can't play this game. It's too stressful. And so I turned it off. And he finished it. He went and platinumed it, did the challenge dungeons, whatever. And I played something else, but I realized while I was playing these other games, all I wanted to do was go back and play Bloodborne. Like once I was away from it, I'm like, you know what? That was hard. That was actually kind of fun. And so he had finished it and was kept talking to me about it, done the expansions. And I'm like, I'm gonna go back and play Bloodborne again But the problem is because I didn't plan on playing it again, in order to platinum it, I had to play through again on my New Game Plus. So it's harder. So I had to play it harder because I couldn't reload the save before the ending and get the other ending. So everything was harder. And freaking Chalice dungeons, like the amygdala in the Chalice dungeons, 30 something tries. My friend plays every time with me, 30 something tries. On the try we get it, he lasts 10 seconds, dies the first 10 seconds. And if you have someone, the thing's harder, it's got more health. So he dies in the first 10 seconds, and I finally got it down. And I'm like, thank you for being useless. Like, you were no help to me at all. You made it harder, but we got it anyway. And I think I was hooked after that. And then we played Dark Souls 3 together. 2 years ago, he came to visit for like 2 weeks, and we moved the TV from my bedroom out next to my living room TV, and we just played Dark Souls 3 like side by side. And then he played Dark Souls 2, but I didn't have time. And then we played Elden Ring, and then I played Demon Souls without him. So before he left today, because he was in town again, we made a pact to play through the remastered Dark Souls 1 soon. So,
okay, yeah. You should definitely do it. It's probably my favorite, but with the bias of that's the first one that I played. So
yeah, and Bloodborne was the first one that I played, which is why I think it's my favorite. But like, they're really good. Like, they are stupid hard. But once I realized that I can just over level and reduce it, because it's never not hard, because like if you over level, you've bought yourself maybe like one more hit, like the boss takes one fewer hit to kill and you can eat one more hit. I gotta eat one more hit. Like, I am not someone who can play the build that's like, oh, well, you just like, you don't do much damage, so but you just gotta hit it a bunch. No, like, I have to do the maximum damage possible because I'm gonna get hit. It's not, I have to outlast it by killing it before it kills me, because I'm not gonna dodge. I'm gonna hit. I've never used a shield. I roll. Like, I can't get behind that shield crap. I'm just gonna roll it the way and hope I get it. But I love From Software games, and I love Bloodborne. So good.
Okay. So I guess, so when you were playing through these games, did you ever hear this comparison come up at all, or had you ever, or did you ever think much, like, you just yourself, did you think, well, something about this reminds me of something about
the real problem is that I was never reading Malazan at the time I was playing them. It was either on my break between them or I had finished them already. And like you said, you hear that a lot on Reddit, and I don't hang out on Reddit. But now that I've heard it, I mean, it makes sense. Like, I get it. Like, it does make sense. First of all, when you say that, the first thing I thought of when you told me that is like, yeah, they've got a similar vibe. Like, I think the vibe of the two is quite similar. I think there's probably, weirdly, I think there's probably a little more there's a little more hope in Malazan than there is in like the Souls games. I think the From Software games are pretty bleak, like, all things considered. But yeah, I understand that comparison. I think it makes sense. The fact that the story is not handed to you and that it's just kind of meted out piecemeal, that a lot of elements are talked about as if you know what they are in world, and if you go kind of hunting and pecking, like looking for something deeper than what's on the surface, you can find that. It's definitely in the fact that, one, it's not really like spoon-fed to you. It does take some acclimation to figure out everything that's going on, but at the same time, if you don't care, you can also understand it just from like going forward. Like, if you're not someone who's going to read every item description like I do, or watch the Vati videos like most of us do, like, you can still understand. Like, I understood Bloodborne before I cared about all the other lore. Like, it's not hard. Like, it's just not incredibly deep without it. Like, you can enjoy it for what it is, but it's also incredibly deep if you go farther. And so that's what I like about really both of those. So
okay. And would you mind just kind of giving a quick kind of, I guess, sum up of which Malazan stuff you've read and which Dark Souls
okay, so I played Bloodborne first, then we played Dark Souls 3, and then Elden Ring, and then I've played Demon Souls. I have not played Dark Souls 2 or 1 yet, and I haven't played Sekiro because I think I would really like Sekiro because of the Sengoku era stuff, because it's my jam. but I'm not good. Like, and I don't want to get good. And maybe I could do it. My buddy and I have talked about maybe playing that, but you can't grind and you can't call for help. And that's just frustrating. It's frustrating to me. And as far as Malazan's concerned, I've read the entire series, the entire Book of the Fallen once, but I've read like various books in it like multiple times.
Okay.
And I've only read books 8, 9, and 10 once. And then I've read Crimson Guard and Knight of Knives. And that's it. I have not yet continued on my Malazan world journey, but I want to. Eventually, I'm even going to read Carcanus, which is, which everyone's like, no, you're not going to like Carcanus because of the freaking Andy, which I'm just not.
I think
Eater are
there's
the best. The Eater are the best by far. Like, I love the Eater. The Leosin are jokes. Bye. See ya. The Andy all need to be given antidepressants so that they can just stop depressing everybody around them. And the Eater, I'm good with the Eater.
I'm very
Andy
curious.
Apologist. I know you are. I know you're an Andy apologist. Everyone is.
No, well, so I do like the Eater the most of that group. They're the biggest reason why Midnight Tides, even more than Tahel and Bug, why Midnight Tides is and Rupert
Thank
Gale
you.
are my
I
favorite.
like Tail and Bug too, but the Eater are freaking awesome.
Right.
I'm with you.
And at least where we're at in Carcanus right now with what's been published, the third book that hasn't been written yet, that's going to be called Walk in Shadow. First is Forge of Darkness, then Fall of Light. The third one's Walk in Shadow. So I'm really kind of, I guess,
there's more.
excited.
There's Eater. It's Eater heavy.
I'm guessing. Well, I mean, there are characters that have names, and Malazan fans will be used to this. And you say, okay, that's the same name as that, just with 2 letters in the middle removed and an apostrophe or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, but how they're initially presented, you'd think, oh well, maybe this is an Andy person back then, but different political things happen and different things go down, and it's I suspect you might like Carcanus more than others have warned you against it.
I think that's probably true, considering that again, like things that I dislike are sometimes exaggerated. Like I like Toll the Hounds, but no one will stop talking about how it's their favorite, so I'm gonna dig in my heels and say that I don't like it, even though like parts of Toll the Hounds bug me because I don't care. Like I don't like the Andy are not my favorite. They're not my favorite, and they're Kalik. And I'm not a Rake fanboy, and that goes a long way. Like people who really like Rake are really gonna like Toll the Hounds. They are.
Right.
And I do like the end. I think the end's cool, but I think a lot of people like forget all the stuff that came before because the end is so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like a lot of characters in Toll the Hounds. I just don't like Kalik at all. I think there's too much of that gook, and there's too many Andy in that book. But I mean, again, it's Malazan, so it's still good. It's still good. It's just my least favorite. So,
have you considered that Toll the Hounds might be a cipher for this?
Oh my gosh! You know what? I had never heard that before. Right now, Alex. Oh my gosh!
Sorry.
No, it's good. You deadpan it really well. I think I thought you were going to say something that I hadn't considered, and then you hit me with the stuff that I hear all the time. No, I know.
Right.
I know. Oh my gosh! This is a cipher for your face.
Right.
How about that one? But yeah, I like Malazan books a lot, and I love the Eater. And isn't the third book of Carcanus coming out after like, isn't he writing book 2 of Witness?
Yes.
And then it's book 3 of Carcanus before book 3 of Witness.
That's the last I've heard. Yeah, and I think the reception to the first 2 Carcanus books it wasn't as excited as I think he was hoping for, and so understandably I could see him thinking, okay, what else can I focus? What else can I put my energy into? Sure. And so that's why he started the Witness stuff.
I mean, it's hard to get momentum for prequels anyway. Like, I think I don't think that's Malazan specific. I think it's hard to for people to feel quite as energized for something that happens before the thing that they really like regardless of what it would have been about. So we'll see. But I'm excited. I'm excited for Witness 2.
Yeah.
I want to read that. Maybe
Yeah.
Carson will be in this one.
Okay, now here's a question that you just kind of made me think about. Even if you weren't specifically like playing any of the Souls games while reading Malazan, uh, since you've read Malazan now, have you ever gone back to those games or any other games and played an RPG character like a Malazan character? Or
You mean
like
like
designed your character like
no, I
okay.
have never done that. I've like and I've been playing RPGs where you could create your character forever, and I've never done that. And when I see people do it, I'm like, why did I never do that? Like it's never occurred to me to play someone else in an RPG. Like I always play either me, like,
Mhm.
or someone like no, it's never occurred to me to play like an actual character, and I don't really know why. But I see a lot of like Baldur's Gate 3. I've
Right,
seen
right.
people make Rake, for
Mhm.
example, or I think Rake, right? I think you can be a Drow in Baldur's Gate 3. Can you be a Drow? I don't see why you wouldn't be.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've seen people make characters from those things in like even like Mass Effect or something. They make characters
Mhm.
from other stuff. But I've never done that. I've never done that, and that's weird. I don't know why. It's just never occurred to me.
I think one of the first times I guess the first time I played a Souls game, my brother said, "Oh, you have to play this. This is Dark Souls 3. At least play through the first boss." And I was just kind of goofing off, and I had just read Bone Hunters, I think, and so I thought, "Oh, I'll do a mage build, and I'll name my character Bottle." And but I didn't get very far because um, I don't think I really like the mage kind of builds in the Souls games. It's just not my style. But
So I played in Bloodborne, and is there magic in Bloodborne?
there's so I've never
I
played
don't think
it,
there
but
is.
there's a one of the stats is like I don't know.
I
And
don't think
I guess there can't really be because you
yeah.
only get melee weapons.
Yeah, there's okay, so there's no mage in Bloodborne. So
Yeah.
I obviously didn't play a mage in Bloodborne, and I did not play a mage in Dark Souls 3. I used the ice mace for most of the
Oh,
game.
okay. Okay.
Um,
From Vort.
but yeah, but in what's that other one? Elden Ring. In Elden Ring, I did play a caster, and I played a caster in Demon Souls because I heard that the game was significantly easier if you played a caster in Demon Souls, and I found that to be 100% accurate. And so I don't really like the mage build, but at the same I'm torn because my life is much easier playing the mage build than it would be and I've heard in Dark Souls 2 the mage is no, it's Demon Souls. Demon Souls the mage is overpowered and they kind of like make it better. So I really enjoyed playing the melee in Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3, but I also like not banging my head against a wall when I was
Right.
playing the mage in like Demon Souls um and Elden Ring. So I don't know. I haven't decided what I'm gonna do in Dark Souls 1 and 2 yet. I might play a melee in Dark Souls 2 at least, because my friend played it melee, and I would feel weird if I well no, he played Elden Ring melee and I just laughed at him as he got stuck on stuff that I beat easily because I had the huge like beam thing,
Uh-huh.
and I
Uh-huh.
had the potion that like froze my mana use for like 10 seconds. So I just like Kamehameha all the enemies. Good stuff.
Uh-huh. Okay. I I think for what it's worth, if Demon Souls was the last one that you played, even if you hadn't done a magic build, I I would have bet that you might have still had a pretty a significantly easier time. With like a couple areas is like kind of the exception, but I do think that was one of the last ones I played was the
I heard the
PS3.
remaster was easier too.
Which one? Sorry.
I heard the remaster was also easier than the original one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have not played the remaster.
Oh, it's good. It's
Yeah.
good stuff.
Okay. I've seen it. It looks beautiful. But yeah.
Right on.
Okay. So let me see. I guess one of the major points of comparison that some people might draw between Malazan and Dark Souls is the difficulty argument. And I think I've heard people say, "Oh, is Malazan really a difficult read? Is it really hard to get into?" I've heard people say the same thing about Dark Souls. And then so I guess maybe so just a
Can I,
little bit facetiously, I'll ask, do you think it's possible to get good at Malazan?
can I get out my soapbox?
Yeah, sure.
Because this is one of my okay. So there are two things that are overblown in the Malazan discussion. One, how hard it is to read, basically on one side or the other. Like people have been trying to debunk the myth of it being difficult, that they've gone too far on the other side and are telling people that it's super easy. Just go with it. Don't even just go. Don't even check the glossary. Just go. You don't understand it? Just go and trust the product. Y'all stop. Stop. And then when people ask what Malazan is about, no one can tell anybody what the series is about. Not everyone wants to read a book solely for thematic content.
Right.
I get that there are some people who the thematic content is the number one most important thing in it. But when you start talking about the big ideas in Malazan, and there are several, compassion being one of them, if you weren't aware, as well as many other things. But when that's all you say, you're turning off people who would like it even if they didn't care. Even if they didn't give a crap about compassion and, the numerous other thematic, big ideas in Malazan. You can like it and not give a crap about that stuff. You can still think it's awesome and not give a crap about that stuff. I think people do it a disservice by only talking about them. And I get it, because people are excited about it. It affects people. You read online and you hear online all the time, like Malazan affected people's lives. And in the more extreme cases, like I was going to kill myself and then I read Malazan and now I'm not. And that's not my experience, but I mean, I can understand that. And so I understand that that's what excites you about it. That's what you want to share with everybody. And same thing, what excites me about it is the military action. And that's what I want to share with people. But not everybody is going to jump on board with that. And I think, and then when people don't want to read it, I think some people react poorly and think that those people are stupid because they don't like all that stuff. And when any community does that, you're doing the whole community a disservice, because now you're being exclusive when we can all like the same, we can all like it for different stuff. So do I think Malazan is hard to get into? No, I don't. I think people talking about how hard it is, how difficult it is, are overblowing it. I think it's long. I think it's long, and I think it's in depth. And I think that is I don't, it's long. It's just a big, long, interconnected series. So there's a lot of moving parts at any given time. And I don't think the reason people don't like it is because it doesn't follow the standard story structure. I get, everyone's like, oh, well, you hear this a lot. Well, people don't like because it's different, because there's not a clear-cut bad guy or a clear-cut good guy. I mean, that's not the first time we've seen that. It's not the first series with morally ambiguous characters. And also, it's also not true. It is really easy for someone like me to make good guys and bad guys, and I don't give a crap if well, they're bad. I don't care. They're the ones that I like. They're the ones that I like. So they're the good guys. As far as I'm concerned, they're the good guys. You know who the good guys are, Alex? The Malazans. They're the good guys. I don't care. But what about, I don't care. I don't care. Yes, are there some good people on the other side? True. Don't care. The Malazans are the good guys. When I am reading it, the Malazans and Fiddler and all of them in charge of this, they are the good guys. So it's not hard for me to draw comparisons or whatever. The rebellion, the whirlwind, bad guys. Sorry. But what about, don't care, bad guys, don't rebel. Like, don't rebel. Like, sorry. Like, oh, you're getting punched by the Malazan Empire. Don't rebel. And so it's not hard for me. Like, yes, there is more nuance there, but for someone like me, it's not hard. It's not hard at all. Like in the Siege of Capistan, do you think it's difficult for me to decide which side I'm on there? It's not hard at all. So it does have a more nuanced, structure than here are the good guys. Boom, we're going to go to point A to point B. We're just going to follow these guys the entire time and do that. It is, but it's just big. Like I don't think it's hard. I just think it's big. And I think the magic system is confusing to start with. I think the most difficult thing is the magic system. The Warrens are the hardest thing to understand when you're going into it, in my opinion. And if you really want to know what the Warrens do, go look it up, because the spoilers you're going to get about the Warrens. I mean, if any of the Warren stuff had been spoiled for me, I wouldn't have cared. Like the stuff we learn about the Warrens is not, the things that I really like about the series anyway. And if I went back and did it again, I would absolutely look up how the magic system works, because that's the most confusing, is that you just don't understand what the magic stuff is. And yeah. Otherwise, it's just big. There's a lot of place names, and there's a lot of, but I don't think it's any more difficult than reading a history. If you pick up Herodotus or Thucydides and you dive into the Peloponnesian War or the Persian War or whatever, same thing. Like, there's about 80 million place names and 80 million people names. But I mean, I wouldn't say that Thucydides and Herodotus is necessarily hard. I just think you lack the context. And as you continue to read, you get that kind of historical grounding or the geographical grounding or whatever, and it's easier to understand. So I don't think it's hard. And I also don't, and I think Eriksson's characters are good. I think, he like dribbles details rather than dumps details a lot of times. So, I just think, I mean, it is written differently than a lot of stuff, but it's not like reading James Joyce's Ulysses, which no one should ever do, and no one should ever let anybody do. It's not the Enigma machine that you freaking need Toll the Hounds to decipher the freaking U-boat transmissions. Like, that's not what it is. It's just big. It's just big. So if you like military fantasy, you should read Malazan. You should. If you have read The Black Company, there's no reason that you should not read both Malazan and the Ravensmark series by Ed McDonald, because those two series remind me so much of The Black Company when I read them. Because I had read Black Company like 3 or 4 times before I ever read a Malazan book. And obviously Black Company was an influence. Glenn Cook was an influence on Eriksson. And you can see it in the Marines. Like, you can just see the company, like, in the Marines and stuff. It's some of the, he does that so well, just like Cook did. Sorry, that was a long answer.
No, that was great. Yeah. I think even just to back up to a little bit of, you were talking about good guys, bad guys. I think even Eriksson would say he definitely has a hard line on some people being bad guy. Like, some of the characters in there,
like Bidethal. No one's sitting here being like, well, Bidethal. I mean, you really got to look at it from Bidethal's point of view. No, I don't. And also, you're gross. So,
right.
At least I know who I'm not going to be friends with anymore, who's like, well, look at it from I'm not going to look at it from Bidethal's perspective. See ya.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a character that infamous character introduced in Deadhouse Gates, and I guess I don't really want to spoil things too much. I'm sure the person that everybody hates at the end of Deadhouse Gates, and in Bone Hunter.
Who? Malik Rel?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm talking. Look, ain't nobody watching this that hasn't read Malazan before. First of
all.
Right. Second of all, I can hate Malik Rel. They don't know what it is. They don't know what it is. Yeah, Malik Rel can suck it. Malik Rel's not a good guy. I don't care how many pages they want to dedicate to trying to convince me that Malik Rel is not despicable and does not deserve my scorn. I don't care. Have you played The Last of Us 2?
I have not. No, I just the first one, and
okay.
I want to play the second one too.
Do
I
you know
think
about what goes on in Last of Us 2?
I
Have
know
you
some things
have you
that
avoided
happen
spoilers like this
partway
long?
through. What? I know. I think I know about a certain.
Okay. Well, there's a character in
Okay.
Last of Us 2 that they spend a whole lot of time trying to make me like sympathize with. I don't care. I don't care. I don't. There are certain things that no, sorry, I don't care. You can make another game about that character trying to sympathize me. I don't care how many of her dogs died. Don't care. No, I do not care. I will hold a grudge on a book or video game character as long as I need to. As long as I need to. You want to know why? They're not real. And
Right,
so,
right,
like, I'm not hurting them in any way. But
right.
no, I get it. Malacrel sucks.
Yeah, yeah. I in a conversation I had with Ian Esselmont, he mentioned that he got some concern before his most recent book came out, saying, "Oh no, are you going to try to give a more sympathetic
Is that
backstory
book
to?"
about Malak Rel?
I wouldn't say it's about him. He's around.
I
Um,
thought it was a prequel.
it is, yeah.
Oh, so it's pre-douchey Malak Rel. That's what it is?
I wouldn't say it's pre-douchey
Oh, so he's
Malik.
still douchey, but it's pre-Deadhouse douchey.
Right, right.
Oh
So
my gosh. Let me tell you what I want to read about. Malak freaking Rel.
he I will he doesn't show up that much, and when he does, it's exactly what you'd expect, I think. And
He
I
doesn't even
think
die
it's
in it.
perfect.
I know he doesn't die in it because it's a prequel. So I can't even root for that.
Right, right.
Dang it, Alex.
Sorry. Sorry, yeah.
Hate Malak Rel.
Well, because the original title was going to be the
The Gestalt,
Gestal,
right?
and
Yeah.
he's a priest or a Gestal priest. So
Whatever that means.
yeah, and to find out, read Ian Esmont's new Forge of the High Mage.
No, no, like no.
Sure.
I'll read Carcanus before I read about Malak Rel.
Again, I think it's all in context that all of us who hate Malik Rel would want to read about Malik
Okay,
Rel. Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. So kind of that was going into good guys, bad guys off of the discussion of difficulty. But another sort of comparison that we might see between Malazan and Dark Souls is the kind of like like everyday normal person. I guess in the Souls games, it's often someone who's dead or dying, or you know, one foot and one foot in the grave or whatnot. And by the end of those games, we as the players, we are super powerful and we can challenge all these gods and fight them. And I think we could draw a comparison between that and what happens with like Ascendance in the Malazan series.
True.
Curious
True.
about your thoughts
I
on
never
that.
thought about that, but that's an excellent point. You start off as, you start out as what are you? Hunter slash the fallen
Right.
slash whatever.
Ash,
Yeah, Ash.
undead. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever you
Yeah.
are. You start out as just some schmuck like joining to light the bonfires or whatever you're gonna do.
Right.
And by the end, you're tearing down. I mean, just look at freaking Bloodborne. You're like tearing down one of the great old ones, like the Shadow Out of Time or whatever it is. Yeah, and then often, like in Bloodborne, one of the endings is like I ain't spoiling anything, guys. It's Bloodborne. Get out of here. Game came out in 2015.
Right.
In one of them, like you become like I think in one of the endings you can become like the new old one or something like that. Like you get
Right, and you're like a slug person.
yeah,
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 yeah, that's great.
yeah. Um, so yeah, I think that is in fact similar with the ascendant things. You amass so much power that you do become isn't that what happens in 3 also? Don't you become like a new guardian, or is it Elden Ring or something?
So I guess
Don't you become a protector of the Erd Tree, like one of the new deities watching it or whatever?
right, well, yeah, I think so. I think with Elden Ring, in one or two of the endings, because I guess a few
Oh, that's
different
right.
ways that it can go. But yeah, I do think that you are in some way like the new Elden Lord.
Hmm.
Or yeah,
Yeah,
like making sure nothing happens
yeah.
to the tree. But yeah, I again I or actually I don't think I mentioned which ones I played, but Elden Ring I've only played once, and I the first time I beat it was around this time last year, so it took me a good several months from release to completing it, and I was so busy, and like I was just like, oh my goodness, this game is it's so good, and I don't have the time to go back and or I didn't at that time have the time to
Weirdly,
revisit it.
Elden Ring's actually my least favorite of the ones I've played.
Okay, okay.
And I don't really know why that is. It just I don't really know why. But
I
I had the least amount. It was still awesome. Like it's
yeah.
still awesome. I think I had the least amount of fun with Elden Ring than I did with the other three that I
Yeah.
played.
Okay, okay. Um, yeah, another kind of thing that I wonder we could talk about like things like the abyss and chaos and these big ideas. I don't know, is there like a term for like what those more like abstract places might be, or like where both the Souls games and Malazan pull like deities are tied to these kinds of things, like and tied to light and dark and
I mean, it's the primordials in
uh,
Greek mythology, the
okay,
primordial stuff. Like, Chaos was the first primordial deity from which all the monsters and night and all that stuff was born. I guess everything was born from chaos to start with, I suppose. The chaos is like, space between the Warrens, which you learn that in Gardens of the Moon. Like you learn that in
right.
the first one. You just
Just
don't know what that means.
Parallax jumping around.
Freaking hairlock. Like when I first read Gardens of the Moon, I'm like, what? Like what? Like what? What is happening? I still to this day don't know what hairlock is. I always picture him as one of those like posing wooden like posing dummies that like artists use to like draw like body poses and everything, those little
Oh,
wooden things
maybe.
without the faces. That's what I always picture hairlock, but he may just be like a dancy puppet or
Yeah,
something.
I kind
Uh,
of pictured him as like a Pinocchio, sort of, or like
yeah,
a
so everyone has different like views on that. Unless do you have the is he in the your fancy garden of the moon thing?
Oh, I don't have Fancy Gardens of the Moon. I
I also have fancy dead house gates over here, but I
okay.
don't have Gardens of the Moon either. Yeah,
I have Fancy Dead House and
and Forge of
Forge of
Darkness.
Darkness, yeah, but I only got in on the second
Yeah,
book. So
same. And you know what? I got Coltane, so I'm all right.
yeah.
Coltane is one of my favorite characters in the whole thing. I love Coltane.
Yeah. They're if, okay, so if Coltane's one of your favorite Malazan characters, who are your favorite Dark Souls or Bloodborne characters? Because that's something that's maybe a big difference between Malazan and the Souls game. Is that Soulsborne, we don't really have a ton of characters, more just like gods and
Yeah,
names
you're
that we
basically on
know.
your own except for the home hub,
Right.
and you get, every time you go back, you talk to them and you get a piece of their story. But it's I mean it's a testament to the writing in the Souls games that you can still get a whole lot out of just a few lines of dialogue. Like and then the items and stuff you pick up that are associated with these NPCs or whatever, you can gain more of their story. But one of my favorites is going to be what is her bloody name? Marie. Is it Marie? It's in the Old Hunters, and it's
Maria of
of
yeah.
the clock tower.
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Oh,
she
she's
is one of
wonderful.
my favorites. Like I love the storyline behind her. She's not like it's one of those things. Am I even the good guy anymore? Because Maria doesn't seem to be one of the bad guys. She seems to be still doing her job of like guarding crap. I mean, maybe she went insane again. I don't know. But I really like Maria of the Astral Clock Tower, or whatever her name is. I liked that fight. I liked her character design. I liked the lore about her. I like the Vati Vidya
Yeah.
thing about her. And I like a lot of the Bloodborne characters, like the in the Old Hunters, the dude that you get the moonbeam sword from.
Ludwig.
Ludwig, yes,
Ludwig, yeah.
Ludwig, and then there's freaking Friar Lawrence or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I call him Larry because I
yeah,
think it's fun. Yeah.
man, like everything's on fire, and then Ludwig is insane. Like, I really like the old Hunter storyline a lot. So I like a lot of the characters from Bloodborne. But I mean, again, the Lovecraftian Victorian vibe in Bloodborne I like better than just like the general fantasy vibe, just because I'm a huge Lovecraft fan. So the Lovecraftian stuff in Bloodborne appeals to me, and I like the design. But the design of the worlds in Dark Souls 3 is really awesome also.
Yeah, I would say I think one of my favorite characters is, and I don't want to say too much about his counterpart in Dark Souls, or in the first Dark Souls, but in Dark Souls 3, Siegward of Katarina, and his promise he made to his friend Yorm, and you helping him out with the elevator that he can't figure out.
He's the one with the wolf, isn't he, in the first one? Is he the one with the wolf?
No, no.
Oh, who's the guy
Um,
who has the huge wolf that
uh,
bites you?
Artorias.
Yes, Artorias.
Yes.
Like, I haven't played Dark Souls 1, and I'm still sad about Artorias and his wolf.
Yeah. Have you seen any clips of the fight with the wolf
Yeah,
and how it's
got a sword in its mouth and crap.
uh-huh. Have you seen what happens when you get far enough into the fight? Do you want to know, or do
Yeah,
you?
you can tell me. I mean, spoiling stuff in Dark Souls doesn't bother me because
Right.
I always watch the fight before it happens anyway.
So partway through, I maybe it's half of its health is down, or 2/3. It starts to like limp like a dog would with like a hurt leg,
That's
and
terrible.
you're still like having to do
Oh no,
it's horrible. Yeah.
that's terrible. I don't like that.
Yeah, so just be warned. And I think that's a boss, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, I guess, type of boss I'm about to say. You can access it very early if you unlock the exact right path that takes you to later areas,
Gotcha.
that sort of thing. But yeah, it's a nice boss. But yeah, I'm not sure how, if you're gonna go in totally blind or not. But
I literally watch video walkthroughs. So I I just watch, make sure I can get everything. I don't have time to explore. Like, some people, the exploration is and figuring out is what they like. No, I don't have time for that nonsense. No, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And that is another thing about the Malazan series. Like, even if you read Gardens of the Moon and you're a little adrift, all right, you're a little lost at sea, the magic, like, you don't understand the Warrens, or you don't really understand, because I mean, it does drop you in Medias Res.
yeah,
I mean, it does drop you into, like, a bunch of stuff has already happened. The Siege of Pale at the beginning, while cool, has no context, and so it can be confusing. But once you have, like, gone further in the series, like, I think I read up to Midnight Tides the first go around before I just I made it to Midnight Tides, and it was like, new characters and whatever, and I think I just got busy and I just left it too long, so then I had to restart. But when I read Gardens of the Moon for the second time, like a breeze, like, and like, because I struggled less with Gardens of the Moon than I did with Deadhouse Gates, just because, like, the Path of the Hands and all that stuff, I did not understand it. Like, I had no idea what was going on. But reading those books the second time was so much easier, and it's like, I remember distinctly playing Bloodborne the first time, like, how slow I had to go, and those big dudes with the axes. I
uh-huh.
died so many times. I'm like, why do I suck at this game? And then toward the end of the game, I'm going there and I'm just like, block, boom, parry, boom, one
Yeah.
hit, dodge, roll, parry, not getting hit, like, at all. And now playing it, I load up Dark Souls 3 or Demon Souls for the first time, and like, I'm not getting killed on the way to the bosses at all anymore, because now I know what to expect. Like, I know how this is going to go. Is it kind of different than other games I play? Yeah, sure. So now I have that experience to really, I have never struggled on normal enemies anymore the way I did on those first enemies in that first section of Yoram.
Going
And
around kind of a half, or
yeah,
like the street that curves around.
yes,
I know
doing the
I was
loop,
Uh-huh.
Just grinding for XP so I
Yeah.
can make it a little further. Yes, before you even open that first shortcut, that gate where you can climb up the
Yeah.
ladder or whatever. Yes, see, oh, those stupid guys.
Yeah.
But now, like, it's nothing anymore, and that's why everyone's like, well, this one's hardest. I'm like, your first one is the hardest. I think the first Souls game you play is the hardest one, because you've not played anything like this before. So at least that's my opinion.
Yeah, so Dark Souls Remastered was the hardest one for me easily.
See,
I will say Sekiro Shadows Die Twice was very difficult, but there is, and I'm sure you may have heard this before, there is a moment early-ish in the game where you kind of hit a wall with a certain boss.
is it the
And
monkey?
hmm?
Is
The
it the
monkey,
monkey?
no, that boss is fun, but it's not particularly difficult. It's just fun and kind of
No.
silly. Um, but there's this boss, and he's very challenging if you haven't gotten good at some of the like key mechanics of the game.
Mhm.
So basically, by the time that you beat that boss, you will be skilled enough to tackle pretty much the rest of the game. There's a
Have you
few
beaten
surprises.
Sekiro?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
The last boss is the one that I've heard that is just like, that is impossible.
Yeah, it's rough. It's terrible. Well, basically it's a 4-phase fight.
And it
Uh,
restarts you at the beginning if you die, doesn't it?
yes.
That's trash.
Yeah.
Like, that is trash. Start me at the next phase.
Yeah, and it's one of these where like the first phase you're not technically fighting the same guy, so you'd think they'd at least say you beat that part. But no, it starts you
That's
before that
crap.
then. Yeah. Yeah.
See, I don't think I can get good enough. I am bad at parrying, Alex. I am not good at parrying.
I'm not either. I'm pretty decent at it in Sekiro now. But still, even in Dark Souls, I'm not very good. I'm decent with Bloodborne at shooting or the like that type of
Yeah.
the gun parry type
Mm-hmm.
thing. But yeah, it's definitely not my strong suit. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna play Sekiro one day because I can't say I have to play it eventually. But have you played like Neo?
No, I haven't. I haven't really. Every time I've thought about getting into any of the
Souls like ones, yeah.
I just think, oh well, I could do that, or I could just replay Bloodborne, or I could just replay Sekiro, or excuse me,
Why is there no Bloodborne 2? They need to come out with
yeah,
Bloodborne 2. It's ridiculous.
yeah. And well, now I guess they're working on the DLC for Elden Ring. Um,
February 24 is what I hear. Like, why is it taking so long for one DLC?
Right, right. And I think Miyazaki may have said something. I think, all those different like websites, kind of clickbaity sort of websites. They're saying, oh, he said this thing in an interview saying they needed to save some Elden Ring content for possible sequels.
If
So,
there's Why would you make an Elden Ring sequel and not a freaking Bloodborne sequel? Like, I don't understand that. Like, Bloodborne is one of the more popular of your freaking IPs, bro. Like, it makes me so mad. Alex, why won't he do it? Is it because Sony owns it? Is that why? Because it's Sony's and not theirs?
maybe.
Stupid. I don't see Elden Ring on Xbox.
Right.
So makes me angry. I'm so mad.
Yeah.
I don't want to play Elden Ring 2. I want to play anyway. Whatever.
So, okay, so with Bloodborne, uh, Bloodborne's got this great idea of the whole Yharnam civilization is built on top of the ancient or older, I guess what are now the Chalice dungeons that you can go through if you're a masochist. But
Dude, those Chalice dungeons, man. The ones where like you got to go through on half health and you're poisoned.
Oh my
Whatever.
gosh, yeah, yeah. And then also fight the watchdog of the old lords and
It
the
was the amygdala. That's the
amygdala, yeah.
freaking amygdala.
Yeah. But yeah, so with the Yarnum civilization of the main game built on top of the, or is it like the Thumerian kind of older
Yeah.
peoples? I think that might also be another sort of connection between Malazan and these types of games where there's definitely respect for all the civilizations that came before and going back into the past. Yeah, I don't know if you
Well,
had any
I mean,
thoughts.
in the Souls games, in any of the Souls games, like Demon Souls, Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, all three of them, you most of the game is a fallen civilization. Like most
Right,
of it is like you don't ever go through a place that isn't crumbling. Like
right.
even if it's a town, like it's so it is very much dealing with the ghosts of the past, and that's one of my favorite parts of the Souls game. And Malazan, like I have, like when I've spoken to Erickson himself, I have said, hey, what if we got a book about the first soul taken? The
Yeah.
what's the guy's name? The first
Is
guy?
that Disymbolakis?
Yes, Decembolakis.
Yeah.
What if we got a Decembolakis book? Like, how about that one? Can we get Decembolakis? Because you know who I'd rather read about than Malik Rel? Decembolakis. So I love like the historical stuff, but as someone who likes history, like I love that Erickson's an archaeologist and also loves history. When I met him, like I like geeked out about his archaeological digs and history and
Uh-huh.
stuff. It's so freaking awesome. And he uses potsherds, which none of my students, they're always like, don't you mean pot shards? I'm like, they are shards of pottery, but they're called potsherds. Deal with it.
Yeah.
Uh, so I love that part as well. And so that's what I like about the Souls games. Also, one of the things is that you're exploring a civilization that's dead. And so there's all of these details of what it was like. And again, all that lore in the items and stuff is exploring. You're kind of like an archaeologist yourself going through those games. So Yarnum for sure, but I mean any of the zones in Dark Souls 3 or Demon Souls as well. You're either going through somewhere that was once recently occupied and has just been like taken over by, because the leader is corrupted, like the head, like there's a lot of that in Demon Souls where they've
Yeah.
just been corrupted, the king or whatever. And then in Dark Souls 3, I mean, you're climbing up to the nameless king, but that thing's crumbled. Like no one rules there anymore. It's all trash. So yeah, I really do enjoy that part um of both series.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to hear when you play Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2. It'll be interesting to hear your thoughts because of kind of the order that you're
Yeah,
playing these in. Because without giving too much away, Dark Souls 3 does a lot more or has a lot more callbacks to the first game than the
yeah.
second
I've
game.
heard 2 is kind of a separate thing.
Kind of, I mean, I'd say it seems like it's sort of like an archaeologist. If they went to the kingdoms of Dark Souls 2 and the kingdoms of Dark Souls 3, you'd think they'd say, oh, well, easily we're going to find more remnants of the civilizations from the first game in the second one just because it's closer.
Yeah,
But that's not at all
yeah.
it. That's not at all what happens.
Gotcha.
I mean, there are remnants, but 3 has far more connections, even though
Gotcha.
it's even much further.
Yeah,
And then there's this whole kind of cyclical things are crumbling back around and folding in on themselves of Dark Souls 3. But
gotcha.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'll be really curious to see what you think of even getting to certain locations in the first game,
Mhm.
having been there or
Oh,
around
because
there.
what is it? The what is it?
Uh,
Lothram?
it,
What is it?
and Orlando.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Anorlon. Yeah. I knew that was in the first one as well as the third one. Yeah.
it's
Uh,
much more of a pain in the ass in the first one.
is it? All right.
Yeah, just yeah,
I see.
warning you. Yeah.
I really like the painted world in Dark Souls 3, the first DLC.
Yes, that's my favorite. That might be my favorite area. Definitely my favorite boss
That
is
is a
Sister Fried.
hard
Yeah.
boss, Alex. Holy crap. Sister, what's her freaking name?
Sister Fried and Father
Sister Fried.
Ariandel shows
Screw
up.
you, Sister Fried, and your big dumb fire dad.
Yeah,
Like,
smash.
what? Yes. Oh my gosh. Talk about 3 phases that are bull crap.
Yeah,
that fight is too hard. That fight is too hard. That fight's too hard. She's too fast.
yeah. I think so I played that before I played this the Lady Maria fight in Bloodborne. I
Oh
think
god.
there's some similarities there, but it's
About how
nice that
fast they
Bloodborne.
are.
Right, right, yeah. Yeah.
But
In
at least
Bloodborne, you
Maria
at least
doesn't
get a
have the
gun.
freaking big dad with his fire pot bashing stuff.
Right. Right.
That
Um
that fight is one of the ones that is significantly easier with a second person
yeah.
because she can't go after both of you if you're not right together. And so you actually have an opportunity to hit her while she's like freaking fast attacking the other person. Oh my gosh. Get
And you
out of
can
here.
backstab her, I think. So
You
if
can.
well
I am not skilled at such things.
yeah,
I have to like try to wallop her with my mace. And
I
she's ice, so she doesn't
oh
succumb to
right,
my ice mace.
right, right. Yeah, I think if that is probably the most challenging time I've had with a boss in this old. Midir took me close to as many tries as she did, but I think she still took me the most attempts. Um, in Dark Souls, I think Melania and Elden Ring might take the cake now, but
Called for help.
right.
First try. Had two other players helping me. No shame. Took her
Okay.
down first try. No shame at all.
Nice, nice. Yeah.
I wasn't dealing with that crap. Her level is already garbage enough. Like the level to get to her, forget that cheese. Like that is ridiculous. That level.
Yeah, well, yeah, they've got those things. There's one section, the enemy type I just really there's two enemy types I really hate in Elden Ring. One, and they're both in that area. One is those like they kind of crawl around on like 4 or 6 legs and they're like greenish and pussy and they can kind of teleport a little bit. I forget what they're
Yes.
called, but they're like revenants or something like that. I hate those. And then there's the big insect, bony insect guys that shoot their ribs at you, and I don't like those guys either. So
Forget that
yeah,
cheese. And they can knock you off the tree roots.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. uh-huh.
Hate that. I
Yeah.
hate it.
If you hate balancing and platforming on tree roots, there's going to be one level of the first Dark Souls that you absolutely hate. Oh,
Because
you know the basilisks, the like frog guys that
yeah,
yeah, well,
that hits you with the curse stuff.
yeah, good luck.
Yeah, because you
Yeah.
know what Dark Souls is really good at? Platforming.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. There's in Elden Ring, there's one like section, it's just like a secret section where you have to like go down into like the bottom of this thing and you have to like jump down on these like protrusions from the wall because there's a guy down there for one of the endings or one of the achievements. I don't know.
Okay.
I hate it. I
Is
hate
it is it like near like if you've already been in like the pipes and this stuff and then you go behind like a hidden thing and then you go down to someone who has something to do with the merchants? I
yes.
I don't know if that okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I've played it once and it's
But you have
that
to like
one
jump
just doesn't stick with
and
me as
you miss a
much.
single jump, you're going all the way down, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate it. And I've got the stupid cat ring equipped. So you don't take damage from falling. Liar. You liar. I did just die from falling.
There's a giant pit thing area in Dark Souls 2. And it's one of my favorite things about the game because it's near that game's version of Firelink Shrine, basically. And it's right there, but you can't really start going down without falling to your death.
Ugh.
And eventually in the game, you meet this guy who sells ladders, but like he
My
sells them at
friend told me about that guy.
he sells them at this like crazy price, like this really extortionist kind of
Yeah,
pricing.
but if you buy the cheap ladder, doesn't it break?
Yeah, and I think the middle ladder gets you down. It's like there's 3 ladders you can get, and I think the middle one gets you down to one platform, and then if you jump right, you can get further down. But the safest way is to bank all the souls and then pay.
That's the thing I'm looking least forward to in Dark Souls 2 is the fact that enemies you can clear an area of enemies. Well, how
Yeah.
do I grind?
Yeah.
How do I
I
grind if they don't reappear?
yeah. I was worried about that before going in as well. There's so many areas though that it would I think it would be strange if you ran out of people to grind
Okay,
or
cool.
things to grind. Yeah. Yeah. Now, grinding for certain items, I wonder if you'll be playing when you get around to playing it, if you'll be playing the Scholar of the First Sin
Yeah, I
version.
will. I will.
That's the only one I've played. And there are certain consumables that I think are just the amounts are different, how often you need them are different, or is different. So I think like finding them, and I mean, there's one boss who's the most tucked away. Like you have to do this whole side quest, join this covenant, and go through these three kind of boring, samey areas, and then you can get to this boss. But you have to keep going, and you always have the tax of a consumable resource every time you want to challenge that boss. So you kind of have to find places to grind
Oh,
for that
gross.
resource.
Faction grinds are my least favorite part of Dark Souls
Yeah,
3. The faction grind was my least favorite
yeah,
part.
no.
Gross. Dang. I love those games. They're so
Me
good.
too.
So good.
Let me see. I want to make sure I'm not forgetting
No, no
other
worries.
kind of connections. Well, I guess yeah. I'll ask you. Are there any just kind of while we've been sitting here talking? Are there any other connections that might jump to mind that you would make between or similarities or great differences between Souls and Malazan?
I mean, Malazan, you made me say freaking Malazan. Malazan Malazan has better characters because you spend more
Right.
time with them, and they're not written with just a couple lines of dialogue. That's not Erickson's style. I mean, the not pouring the details on you is similar, but for what Dark Souls does, which is very, very bare bones storytelling, it does a really good job with dribbling in that lore and getting it. Erickson's characters are much like there's much better, and especially characters you spend time with.
Yeah.
Like your character, the Ashen or the whatever, like
Yeah.
you're a faceless entity, right? You're Kristen Stewart from Twilight. You're Bella. You
Right.
put yourself on it. But I mean, the style of indirect characterization and showing us stuff and making us feel things in fewer words, like for example, like Artorias and the dog,
Yeah.
that's a like I haven't even played that, and that storyline packs a punch for me. Like it's just good stuff. um but yeah, I had never considered that before. You had brought it up, so I'm glad you did, because it is there are a lot of similarities. Not up now, obviously, neither one is influenced by the other, but it is
Right.
interesting that those similarities are interesting. And I think people who like Souls games would absolutely like Malazan. But I don't think you have to like Malazan. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
I guess I'm not really sure how I feel about what my answer would be to this next question, but what type of game do you think would be best suited to like if Malazan were ever adapted into a video game, what style of game or even like specifically what style of RPG? Because obviously these RPGs are very different than Final Fantasy.
For
So,
sure.
right.
Yes, and I'm glad you said RPG. There are people who say that Bloodborne and the Souls games are not RPGs. I disagree. I think they are.
They are. Oh yeah.
I don't think they're the same as Final Fantasy, and I don't think a turn-based RPG would work as well for Malazan as. So I think what Baldur's Gate 3 is doing and Baldur's Gate 2, I think a CRPG would be really good, especially when you consider the military aspects of Malazan. Because that's something that Baldur's Gate does not have, 2 or 3, is CRPG management of large scale forces like defending cap, like the siege of Kapistan. You could easily do like an RTS kind of thing,
Right.
like that would be awesome. I would suck at it because I'm awful at RTSs, but like, you know, war stuff could be RTS type games, and the top down CRPG work, like walking through. I think Malazan would make a great video game just because of how long video games tend to be, especially RPGs. You
Right.
could explore more of the world lore. Like you could learn more about these specific places. Like there's a bunch of places. Again, I haven't read all of the Malazan canon, but there's a bunch of places that I want to know more about. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I would love to see more of the Kachain Shamal pre, you know, pre
Destruction, or
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, pre-destruction. I would love to see Decembolakis and the First Empire. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why a Malazan movie is not going to work. A Malazan movie is never going to work. There's too much. There's too much. And if you try to make a Malazan movie, the same way if you try to make a video game, like a movie out of an RPG or anything like that, because of your time constraints, you have to strip so much of what makes this thing that it becomes generic. One, they already want to make it more generic so that it appeals to more people. And two, time constraints force you to cut a bunch of stuff out. So even if you cut everything out and you just wanted to make it a military, like just about the siege of Kapistan, for example, it's going to be a generic fantasy military thing. Like
Yeah.
I'm looking at Winter King right now. Like I haven't watched it yet, but I think the first episode's out. Winter King, Bernard Cornwell's Arthur trilogy.
Uh-huh.
I saw the trailer and I hate it because
Okay.
it looks like a generic Dark Ages Viking Saxon, like generic fighty thing. And I'm just like, oh wow, this is nothing about this looks different than any other version of this that I've seen. Now I haven't watched it, but the trailer, I don't want to watch it. And that's always the problem with adaptations is the time constraint and the necessity of making it appeal to the widest possible audience strips it of its uniqueness, and so it becomes something that can't differentiate himself. So Malazan would have to be a TV show, but the problem is you would have to spend an entire season per book. Like
Yeah.
you would have to. And even then you'd have to cut, hopefully, Mappo and Akarian, and all the other stuff that I don't care about. So you cut Mappo and Akarian for, look, so Deadhouse Gates.
Yeah.
You cut Mappo and Akarian. You cut, I mean,
I bet you'd cut one of the Chain of Daleks battles. Not sure which
no, you
one.
can't. There's only like 3.
Right. I could see, especially it being an earlier season of the show,
Yeah.
depending on budget constraints, I could
If they
see that.
combined, they'd have to combine 2 of them.
Right, right.
That's true. That's true. They would definitely compress the Path of Hand stuff. You'd have to.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's so much wandering in the desert. You can combine that stuff together. Oh, and I forgot about it. Well, you can go ahead and cut out. You can go ahead and cut out the like most of the Fellison storyline for me. Right? You just like cut it out right there. I mean, again, you need the Fellison stuff, but again, there's a lot of wandering in the desert that isn't necessarily the story. But if you were adapting it, like you couldn't, like you wouldn't have time, you wouldn't have space to keep all of that. And you're right. I would accept some cutting of the Chain of Dogs because it's just, if you have to include all the storylines, and you have to have Fellison. Like, if we didn't need Fellison, I'd say cut that whole storyline. Sadly, we need her. Yeah, you just have to combine a lot, and like they would probably have to cut all of the nascent stuff,
Yeah.
because it isn't really relevant to Deadhouse Gates. It's not really relevant until later. Like, and I guess, and you could include that could all be flashbacks in like a later season,
Yeah.
when it actually becomes important or whatever. Just because, and there's purists listening right now saying, no, what are you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna do? Like, you have a time constraint. What are you going to cut? You have to cut something. This is an interesting exercise. So yeah.
See, my biggest concern with, and one of my biggest concerns is the Lethrus, or the Teist Eater and Lethrus content. I love that whole storyline, and that setting is probably my favorite of kind of the three main continents and settings.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I love
It's
Lethra.
so it's introduced so late in the books. I'd worry that if if a major storyline gets compressed, I worry that that's going to suffer. It's important, obviously. We know it becomes
So
extremely
the
important.
way that would work is because look, messing like fantasy economy, I'm there. Like, I love fantasy economics. So the whole like let's topple the economy
Uh-huh.
attempted storyline is wonderful. When it gets left hanging in Midnight Tides, when I first read it, I was like, are we just not going to resolve that plot line? Like, fortunately, we come back to it. What they would have to do is, because House of Chains basically wraps up, like Memories of Ice and House of Chains do a really good job with wrapping up. So what would have to happen is, I don't think you could do Dead House Gates in season 2. I think you'd have to do Memories of Ice. So I think you would
Okay.
have to do like American Horror Story, right? Like, I've never watched it, but it is not the same story each season, right?
Right, right.
So I think seasons 1 and 2 would have to be Gardens of the Moon, Memories of Ice. The show is so popular that they stay around for Dead House Gates and House of Chains.
Uh-huh.
And then now you have proof of concept. You've done 2 separate storylines that have all been faithful and really good. Now I think you've bought enough goodwill and enough like investment that you could do the Lethry storyline, Midnight Tides. Now, the resolution of Midnight
Yeah,
Tides becomes slightly more difficult
yeah.
because you can't jump to Reaper's Gale.
Right.
So that would be a little more challenging. I think you'd almost have to work in some of Bone Hunter's, or you'd have to do season 5 would have to be Bone Hunters,
Yeah.
House of Chains, Dead House Gates, House of Chains, and then Bone Hunters, and then you do Midnight Tides and Reaper's Gate.
Super scale. Yeah. Yeah, sort of
Because
like to bookend that. Like, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it would be too hard otherwise, and I think it would be difficult for people to stay attached to that if you separated the storylines, if that makes sense.
And
That's my
then
suggestion.
with the fans riot when season 8 came out for
I
Told
mean,
Us.
as long as it wasn't bad. I mean, no, the
Right,
fans would love it. The fans would be like, "Oh, you guys
right.
wait! Oh, season 8, Toll the Hounds! Oh, it's the normies.
Right.
Like, it's the normies that are like, what is going on? Why is there so much Why is there so much black goo everywhere? Like, what is happening?" And then it can go down in history with all the other season 8s that destroy popular television shows.
Yeah.
That Toll the Hounds would be the hardest one to adapt because right? Like, you would have to fight all the network execs not to just make the last 200 pages
Yeah.
as the show, like all of the in-town, like, it would be the hardest thing to do. And what do you cut? And purists don't want to cut anything from there because it's all thematic. Okay, but you're not going to get anybody to let you show all these random townspeople nobody cares about. Like, you're just not. Like, you're not going to get anybody to let you do it.
I think even Told the Hounds, so what I think would be an amazing adaptation that unfortunately no one would ever go see, and it wouldn't do anything, it wouldn't do well at all. The Carcanis books should be adapted as theatrical production, as plays, in a theater. Yeah.
Dude, I would
And I
love to see
think
that.
Told the Hounds could do a similar thing because of how it's
And you
written.
just have
Sort of
Krupp narrate it.
exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
He was
heck
the
yes.
chorus. Yeah.
I would audition for that crap. Like, look, I don't love Toll the Hounds, but you know what? I don't have to read 1,200 pages of it in the play.
Right.
Crap, are you kidding? That would
And
be
you could
awesome.
turn all
How you
of
do
those
Kalik?
inner monologues into soliloquy and things like that.
How you gonna do Kalik on stage, Alex?
Yeah, that's gonna be a problem
A
for
huge
makeup
problem.
and props, I guess.
A huge problem.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Well,
yeah. Also, I'm not sure how you'd visualize the conclusion on stage.
oh,
Yeah, or that setting. Um, it could be a little
yeah,
difficult. You could just have the sound of
yeah.
chains and wheels in the background.
I mean,
I don't know.
sure. So yeah, like 8, 9, and 10 would be hard to adapt in general. Um, but I'm all for it. They should adapt that crap. Like they should do.
I bet, I mean, with 9 and 10, I think readers are fine with an author, are often fine with an author introducing new character groups to, like flesh out the world at that late stage. I'm not sure TV show audiences would be, so I'm not sure we get too much of
Yeah,
the Parish Greyhelms
I
near
don't
the
like the
end.
Paris Greyhounds anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like
And
who are
they're
you? Yeah, I mean, I think again, if we reach that point, people they're acclimated to it, so they'd be okay with it. But there are a lot of characters that come in. I don't think they'd introduce that many. They would combine them. The Paris Greyhelms would probably be combined into like the one lady,
yeah, yeah,
or maybe two of them, like all of them combined in like the two people,
yeah.
because it's just too many. Um, the Forkroll of Sale would be freaking cool to see in a movie.
They would, yeah.
So would the Kachancha Mall. Like, are you kidding?
I was talking with Jimmy, and I thought it would be hilarious one day to be at some kind of comic store, like a video game store or something, and look over and see a Funko Pop of a Kachange Jamal.
Be awesome. If I go to ICFA this year, I will rent one of those T-Rex costumes
Oh yeah.
and like attach like a fake blade to my arms so I can be a Kell hunter. Um, it's all very serious there. Maybe they'd kick me out if I did that.
I know, I think somebody was dressed as a cockroach for a little bit during this last one. I
Oh,
didn't ever see him. I'm sure they're making a reference, but I don't really.
cool. As long as Erickson got a kick out of it, I'd be all right.
Are you planning on going to go? Are you planning on ICFA this year?
I mean, I live 5 hours from Orlando, and I have family in the area, so it's not hard for me to go. It
Mhm.
is during my spring break, which is
Oh,
the
okay.
big problem. I couldn't go last year because I took kids to Italy
Oh,
during
okay.
spring break. But I mean, getting to meet Steven Erickson, and Philip was there and Joanna was there. Um, Steven Erickson's so nice. Like he's so nice, and like he's a funny dude.
Oh yeah.
I like talking to him about history, like a lot. Like I keep wanting to like email him and say, hey, do you want to come talk about like historical like stuff, historical stuff, inspirations for the series, like with me? You just want to talk about history? Because I really just want to talk about history. Hold on, I'm looking up ICFA when this one is. I don't actually know how to spell
I
it.
think it's March 12th, or like it starts March 12th.
ICFA, Indian Council of Food and Agriculture. That's not right.
No, no.
How do you
You
spell
look
that?
up IAFA
IAO.
is the International Association for the
Of
Fantastic Adventure.
firefighters?
No, no, no.
Killing me,
The
Alex.
IAFA ICFA or yeah, I don't know.
There it is. IAN. Okay, I see. For the Fantastic and the Arts. Virtual conference. March 13th through 16th.
Okay, okay, yeah. See,
The
I
theme
need
is
not
whimsy?
whimsy, yeah, yeah,
What? The theme is whimsy?
yeah.
So are we
Which
gonna
is
we just gonna have a like is Pratchett gonna come talk about like the Tiffany Aching books or something? Have you read any Pratchett?
I've read more and that's it. And I loved it. And I was going to put more Discworld into
Read
my
Guards of
TBR
Mine.
this year.
Read Guards of Mine.
But I haven't gotten around to it. I wanted to start off with like the death books and then move to the that's not a good idea.
I mean, no, for someone if you like Toll the Hounds, like the death books, the problem is that the death books, again, people sell the death books wrong. Death is not the main character in them, and many people are disappointed because Death is not the main character in them. Death
Right.
is in it, but he is not the main character. Um, But if you really liked Mort, then yeah, you'll like
I
the
did.
rest. And especially, I don't like the Last Death books.
Okay.
It's very Toll the Hounds navel gazy.
Okay.
You will probably love it. Many people love Thief of
Okay.
Time. I don't. I'm like, ugh, like stop, stop pontificating. Just stop. But I mean, again, a Pratchett book I don't like except for Pyramids is still better than most books that I you know, just kind of like.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Where do you live? Where are you?
I'm in Fort Lauderdale. Well, I'm in Plantation, but like
Oh, you're
Fort
in
Lauderdale.
Florida.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
So yeah, Ickfa's not far from you. Like
No, no.
it's about the
3.5,
same. It's about the
4.
same distance. You're just going north. I'm going south.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Nice. My mom used to live in Fort Lauderdale. It's nice,
Yeah.
but south. It's almost a different state from where I am. I'm in the Panhandle. So I'm in Alabama basically.
Right. Right.
And everyone here talks like this. And I guarantee you that's not the case in Fort Lauderdale.
No. No. Not quite. No.
Nice.
Yeah.
Another Floridian.
Yeah. So I may not be going to ICFA this year, or this upcoming one because I actually. So I moved here in March 2020. Great time to be changing things in my
Wow.
life.
I think
Um,
AP just moved here too, didn't he?
yeah, hi. But shortly into the whole lockdown thing, and the early like real panic of COVID,
Yeah.
I met she's not my fiance. We met online and started talking, and now we're getting married March 9th.
Oh, so no,
So
you're definitely not going this year.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Right on.
We've talked about how when we do our honeymoon, probably won't be immediately after the wedding anyway,
Yeah,
but I'm sure we're gonna be
for sure.
totally wiped out from wedding planning and
Yes,
everything. So
for sure. Right on. Right on.
yeah.
Well, nice. We got some storms headed our way.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The current one, the one heading to Florida now,
Uh-huh.
um, it could swerve to hit Tampa, but currently it is headed right for the Panhandle, like headed
Gotcha.
right for us.
Gotcha.
So
And I'm sorry, did you say you're Tallahassee or Pan?
I'm about 2 hours west of
Okay.
Tallahassee.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm on that I'm on like the part of Florida, like I'm on the coast down here
Okay.
at
Okay.
the dip, slightly west of Tallahassee. I'm still in Central Time. I'm like me and us in Pensacola, we're the ones on Central Time in
Okay. Gotcha.
Florida. So yeah, it's headed up here to Destin, the Panhandle area.
Got it.
So
My family used to take my brother and I to we always used to like once every year, maybe once every 2 years, we do a trip down to St. George Island, like right off of Apalachicola or like right off of that little spot there. So
nice.
that's
Nice.
my as much as I'm familiar with that area of the state.
I'm down in Tampa all the time because Busch Gardens is my favorite vacation
Okay.
spot. I love Busch Gardens. So, but yeah, dang, I didn't know you're from Florida. Right on, right
Yeah.
on. You can commiserate with how hot it is here.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so hot. Are you from Florida?
No, I'm from Missouri.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah. I
What's that
grew
like?
up just outside of the St. Louis area, did my undergrad in a small town in North Missouri, and then did my grad school in Kansas City. And then I moved here. So,
Wow, what's your degree in?
history. Uh, yeah,
Really?
a BA in history and then an MA in history with a public history emphasis.
What?
Yeah, I work for or I work at the Seminole Tribes Museum at one of the reservations down here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are you like a curator?
So I work with the oral histories, and um, sometimes it's doing new interviews. Mostly it's just working with all the old interviews and transcribing them and going through them. If people need to watch or listen to their family members, I make copies for them,
That's
stuff
so
like that.
cool. Did you have a specialization? Was it Native American history or?
Not at all. I knew very little about Native American history before I started here. I studied Holocaust and genocide studies. So yeah. So if
We need to talk history
yeah,
sometime.
yeah, sure, yeah. Yeah.
Dang, your specialization is much more modern than mine is.
Right, right.
But I mean, my degree is in international politics and with a specialization in East Asian politics. So my degree
Okay.
is in Chinese, Korean, Japanese history and the political systems. But
Okay.
like, I teach Latin and classical studies. So my current specialization is, Greece and Rome,
Sure. Sure.
which is nowhere near the Holocaust and genocide studies. But that's fascinating.
Yeah. Well,
Dang.
it's not a fun's
There's
never the
nothing
right word,
fun about
but
studying the
it's
Holocaust. No, I get
right.
it. Well, I
It's
get it.
very I don't know. It takes so much mental energy, and I
For sure.
love things that take a lot of like I love
Yeah.
things that I can
Yeah.
I don't know, just sit and think about for forever.
Yeah. And the thing is, we're so far removed from the Greeks and the Romans that even like atrocious things that happened during the Greeks and the Romans, it's not so recent. So
Right.
it doesn't require the same like brain space
Right.
because it's almost as if we're reading, fantasy or fiction or something, because it's not something that's happened recently at all. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So I don't know. That's how I can process sometimes the horrible things that the Greeks and the Romans did for, you know, whatever they're pissed about this time.
Yeah, I'm thinking about going back to school maybe
For a
sometime soon
doctorate?
here. Yeah. I'm thinking uh, when I was at ICFA this year, I met a number of people who went to FAU down here and
Florida
Florida
Atlantic?
Atlantic, yeah. And they have a comparative studies program that, and some of the courses that are like part of that program have to do with, some of them have to do with history, some of them have to do with fantasy and sci-fi literature.
Nice.
And I'm really considering focusing my research on how genocides are depicted in fantasy and sci-fi.
Nice.
Um,
That's
yeah,
cool.
so I might be applying for August 2024, but we'll see.
That's very cool. If I had time, I would write like a paper for ICFA because I want to document the stuff in like the how war and fantasy, the similarities between war and fantasy and like, historical battle tactics and stuff like
Sure,
that.
sure.
Because that fascinates me. So I'm like every time I read something like dang, Greek phalanx, dang, Roman maniple, check this out. Dang, Roman like and the have you read Song of Ice and Fire?
Yes.
The Battle of Blackwater Bay
Yeah. Yeah.
makes me so
Insane.
happy
Yeah.
because it is very, very reminiscent of the Battle of Syracuse, with Athens trying to invade Sicily.
Okay.
Um, and my kids that have seen Game of Thrones, when I talk about that, I'm like, dang, and this happens like the freaking. If you haven't read it, I'm not going to spoil it. I mean, for the people watching, but like the Battle of Blackwater Bay is so similar to the Battle of Syracuse. Um, like that kind of stuff. I just love that.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I have no time, so I won't. I'll just sit here and complain. That's what I do. Alex, this was very fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on. Sorry that we kind of went off on
Oh, the
other
last
things
20 minutes
there.
is like, hey, so we're just nerding out about history and crap, guys, and Florida. So,
Right, right.
oh
Woo,
well,
Florida.
whatever. Like there is nothing that hits the algorithm like two nerds sitting there talking about their history degrees. Like, man,
Right,
it's gonna blow
right,
up. There's gonna be a million people watching this video. Are you kidding? The algorithm likes
right, right,
nothing more than nuanced discussion about history.
right, right, right. So I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I did want to give you the chance, real quick, if you don't mind, or if you'd like to kind of, like, I don't know if you wanted to give maybe a ranking of the Souls games you've played, or
Sure.
mention your favorite and your least favorite bosses.
Sure.
It's not something like that. Yeah.
Ranking my Souls games ranking, Bloodborne, very close under that is Dark Souls 3. And then I've got Demon Souls and then Elden Ring. Those are gonna be, yeah, I've played 4. So those are my ranking. And they're all very close because they're all very good. And I can easily, I'll off the top of my head try to rank the Malazan books. Let me get here we go.
Okay.
Off the top of my head. Bone Hunters, Bone Hunters. And again, this is not definitive. So Bone Hunters.
No,
Bone
you said
Hunters.
it. That's it. It's written.
I mean, yeah, Bone Hunters is my favorite. Bone Hunters, Deadhouse Gates, Crippled God, Midnight Tides. I think those are all my favorite ones, followed very closely by Memories of Ice. And then like my bottom three are like Gardens, Toll the Hounds, of course.
Sure.
And Reaper's Gale,
Okay.
weirdly, which I liked way more the first time I read it. The second time I read Reaper's Gale, I didn't enjoy it as much. I don't really know why. I really don't know why, but I did not enjoy it quite as much. And again, they're all good. I think the first 100 pages of Dust of Dreams is the best first 100 pages of any of the books. Like, I love the first 100 pages of Dust of Dreams, and of course the last 150 pages, which are just good stuff. So
What
yeah,
about the ghost with his band of mysterious people exploring a mysterious relic? That
where
storyline
in
In
Dust of
Dust of
Dreams?
Dreams?
Wait,
It's a very strange story, and it's
I've
not
clearly
really.
forgotten that storyline.
It's yeah. I'd say don't worry about it. Yeah,
Oh, oh,
you know who I'm talking about. Yeah, yeah,
not my favorite part.
yeah.
Not my favorite part. Not my favorite part.
I like what comes of it, but just not. Yeah.
Sure. Not my favorite part. I think there are a couple people who change their allegiance like too quickly and too often.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? You're the what of the what now? What? Why? Like, why now? The stuff they do in book 10. That's awesome.
That's great. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, climbing them stairs, Alex, in book 10. Climbing them stairs. Oh, that's good stuff right there. Ooh, that's good stuff.
Also, another guy finds a different way up to the top, and I like that guy too.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. Book 10, the military stuff in book 10 is phenomenal. Phenomenal.
And favorite bosses, least favorite bosses in Souls.
Okay, my least favorite bosses are my least favorite boss Elden Beast. Elden Beast is my least favorite boss of all of the games. I don't like the arena battles where I have to chase something. Like, I hate those fights. They're annoying more than they are hard. Like, they're annoying. So I'm okay with a hard boss. I don't like annoying bosses. Like Sister Free, like that's stupid. It's hard, but like I don't hate it because it's not annoying. I'm just not good. I just need to get good. So yeah, a lot of the dragon bosses are like that, which are annoying.
Yeah.
But favorite bosses, like again, Maria, that's an awesome boss. The Father Gascoigne is a cool boss in Bloodborne. Ludwig, the old Hunters has such good bosses. Old Hunters has
Orphan
bosses.
of Cause. Yeah.
I don't. Oh man. Whoa, summon my buddy, and it's like, okay, we're just gonna go ahead and do this together because again, I'm on New Game Plus.
Bro,
so
right,
everything is stupid harder.
Right.
And in Dark Souls 3, Nameless King's a good fight. Like, it was hard, but it's a good fight. The fight with the two people in Nameless King. There's the fat guy and the skinny guy, right? Is that not in Nameless King? Is that in Dark Souls 3? It's got the fat guy and the skinny guy. Is that Elden Ring? That's Elden Ring.
Apostle or something noble, something apostle.
Yeah, you have the fat apostle and then the skinny one. That's Elden Ring. Yeah, I like that fight. Demon Souls, I like the one with the puppet lady, the lady who has the fake ones appear. It's before you go
Fool's Idol, I think.
Yeah, the Fool's Idol. I don't like the gargoyles. That was where I decided I was going to cheese the game because I did so well, and then they got me at the end, and I'm like, okay. So I just went and bought Flame Strike and one-shotted them.
One of them got stuck under the bridge for me, so I had to jump off and start it. So, yeah.
Dislike.
Yeah.
I do not like that, and I hate the octopus heads in Demon Soul. The mind flayer things. Those are my least favorite enemies.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Anything that can shoot me from a distance, I don't like because I'm bad at aiming, so I just get shot while I'm trying to like shoot it with my bow or something.
What about the I just got to Irithyll Dungeon again in Dark Souls 3. The jailers with their like branding irons. That anything happy to say about those guys?
The ones that like literally just like they are those the ones that just look at you and drain your
Yeah.
max health or whatever.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's them.
Screw that zone. That's the most annoying zone in the entire game. Like the freaking no, I hate that. I
Yeah.
hate that. Oh, you
I'm
reminded me. I
sorry.
hate
I'm
that.
sorry.
And
So
why is there always a poison bog level in every single Souls game?
yeah, so this might be a bit of a hot take. I don't mind the one in Demon Souls. I hate that you can't roll in it, but I don't actually mind it that much, as
It's
much as
less annoying than the other ones.
yeah, yeah. And I feel like there's a well lit path with the flames, and
Yeah,
it's not the worst.
you're right. It's not nearly as bad as the other ones.
Yeah.
You're right.
Um. Okay, so yeah, again, I don't want to keep you too long. So I might end the video here now, and brainstorm titles for this and some suggestion of what we talked about and where our conversation led. But thank you so much for coming on and talking about some of the similarities between Malazan and Souls games, but also just our love for both different
For sure.
different
I love
series.
Malazan and I love video games. And so I'm always happy to talk about any of this stuff. And history, which we also
Yeah.
got to talk a little bit about, which makes me very happy. That's awesome. I didn't know your degree was in history. That's awesome. We definitely talk history sometime.
Yeah. Well, maybe the next time we do one of these, we can make it
Let's do it.
specifically
Let's do it.
kind of down that vein. Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks.